and welcome to the Book Joy Pod, where we talk all things school libraries. I'm your host, Rachel, and today we're talking about what's on everybody's mind lately: artificial intelligence. And no, I don't mean Steven Spielberg's heart wrenching film starring America's favorite child actor of the 90s, Haley Joel Osment. No, folks, today we are talking about generative AI, the newest technology craze, and how it's being utilized in K 12 schools. Now, I know I started the episode with a joke, but our focus today is actually pretty serious and close to my heart. In the past few years, ed tech companies have been racing to make available dozens of new AI tools specifically marketed for use in schools. AI has great potential in education, with chatbots serving as personal tutors for students, lesson planners for teachers, data analysts for administrators, and so much more. However, as exciting and seemingly wonderful as these tools are, the fact is that widespread use of AI is still relatively new in the field of education, and there are still some major concerns that school leaders need to take into account before implementing any new AI powered programs. One major issue with AI is that of inequity and bias, particularly in regard to race. How does artificial intelligence negatively impact our Black, Indigenous, and other students of color, and what can we do about it? Let's consider a scenario posed by the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. A school implements new risk assessment AI enabled software to determine appropriate discipline measures for students. The software gives students a risk score that estimates the likelihood of them committing a future severe infraction based on historic school discipline data. Significant disparities by race have persisted in the school's application of student discipline, and Black students are disciplined more frequently and more harshly than other similarly situated students of another race. As a result, the historic school discipline data that the software relies on reflects the school's discriminatory disciplinary practices. Whenever a student receives a disciplinary referral, the school uses the software to calculate the student's chance of reoffending and heavily relies on the risk score in determining the severity of punishment. For example, higher scores lead to more significant discipline. The AI software does not directly use the student's race as an input in calculating the risk score, but parents complain to the school after they notice that the software tends to give high scores to Black students and low scores to white students. The principal tells the parents they should trust the software because it does not have access to information about the student's race, so it is less biased to let a machine generate the risk score for discipline decisions than to let a school official do it. This scenario was posed in the Office for Civil Rights' document, Avoiding the Discriminatory Use of Artificial Intelligence. So let's break down the problem in this scenario. In this scenario, the school started using an AI program to assist in discipline. The school had a history of discrimination toward Black students. In theory, the AI program would eliminate discrimination and bias, especially since it doesn't even have access to information about students' race or ethnicity. In theory. But that's not how AI works. In order for the program to work, it has to be loaded with historical data so that it has a foundation on which to generate new information. Since the school's historical behavior data was discriminatory, the AI is now also discriminatory. Although this particular scenario is merely hypothetical, in reality, situations similar to this one are already occurring in schools and harming BIPOC students. Did you know that according to a recent study by Common Sense Media, Black students are over 2 times more likely to be accused of using AI to cheat than their white peers? 20% of Black students have been wrongly accused of cheating because AI-powered software incorrectly flagged their work as being AI generated. Luckily, there are educators out there who are realizing these problems with AI programs in schools. Here are some of the top issues concerning racial bias and inequity in AI, with AI. The one we've been discussing already, of course, is racial bias in AI algorithms. To quote Alison Klein, an editor for Education Week, AI technology is only as good as the data it's been trained on. In other words, the quality of AI outputs depend upon the quality of its inputs. When AI software is developed, it's disproportionately influenced by white male perspectives. As a result, any biases held by software developers, even the ones they are unaware of, are replicated by the AI. As a result of these biases in the algorithms arise another problem. When students use these AI programs, they can be exposed to inaccurate and even harmful information. An article from School Administrator magazine reports of an early ChatGPT prompt that raised red flags. When told to finish the sentence, "the white man works as," ChatGPT responded with occupations such as doctor and lawyer. But when told to finish the sentence, "the black man works as," ChatGPT's response was janitor and garbage collector. These responses reflect the inherent human biases that molded its programming. But even more importantly, these kinds of responses perpetuate a system of racial inequality in our country, and they are harming our students. A third problem is that the integration of AI programs into schools could continue to deepen the digital divide. The COVID-19 pandemic really shed light on the prominence of a digital divide in our nation. The digital divide refers to the accessibility of technology. Students of color are less likely to have access to technology tools due to systemic structures that keep marginalized groups marginalized. Because these students have limited access to the technologies their schoolwork increasingly relies on, they then fall behind, and the achievement gap widens as well. Now let's talk about us, school leaders, decision makers, advocates. What can we do to combat these problems and make our schools more inclusive and equitable? Let's start with the first step: awareness. When we are training teachers and administrators in our buildings on how to use new AI tools, the training shouldn't stop at which button to click. Every stakeholder needs to be made aware of the potential biases and inaccuracies in the information generated. That being said, AI should never be relied on as the decision maker, the way it was in the scenario we heard earlier. We are the ones with brains and hearts and the capacity to understand context and bias. While AI can be a powerful tool, we are the ones who should have the final say. We need to check AI's work and adapt it so that it is helpful, not harmful. We can also teach our students how to evaluate AI generated content so that they also are equipped with the literacy skills they need to utilize AI in a safe and productive way. When it comes to procurement, librarians, technologists, other school leaders, we need to be ready with important questions for AI software vendors. What data was used to train this AI? Was that data representative of diverse populations? Has the program been tested for bias in its responses? Was there BIPOC representation among the developers of the software? A respectable company will have answers to these questions. As school leaders and community members, we also need to push for policies to be made, both at the school level as well as the national level. At school, policies need to be in place for how AI can and can't be used by students, by teachers, and by administrators. At the national level, we should be advocating for written standards and guidelines by which AI software must be developed in order to prevent harm to any other groups of people. We can also advocate for policymakers to find solutions for ensuring access to disadvantaged populations. My goal in this podcast was not to dissuade you from using AI. In fact, my ultimate goal is quite the opposite. AI is an incredible tool that has the power to transform teaching and learning. However, it is imperative that we keep in mind these issues of inequity and bias and actively work to combat them. Technology is cool, but our students have to come first. Thanks for tuning in to the Book Joy Pod. Special thanks to Richard Charles, Allison Klein, Lorraine Langreo, Lisette Partello, and the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights. Links to their works will be in the description below. As always, keep finding joy in your school library. Thanks for listening.